Cain lives, or at least in our hearts, and in Tempest Rising. Tempest Rising is trying to capture the feeling of Command&Conquer. So in this review, we will take a look at how well it actually does that. And then in the second part of this video, we will talk about how is the game doing as an RTS game without all the Command&Conquer nostalgia. So with that said, it's time for another episode of Mole Thoughts, and let's have a look at Tempest Rising. Now, let's be real here, we will probably never get another Command & Conquer because at this point EA sees strategy games as mobile games, and the last Command & Conquer we got was about 2 to 3 years ago as another mobile game developed by Tencent. So of course people on PC are yearning for a substitute of that genre and of that title. And the good news is Tempest Rising is here to do exactly that. It is Command & Conquer in everything but name. The two factions you can play, aka the GDF, no, not the GDI, but GDF, the Global Defense Force, and the Tempest Dynasty are exactly the two factions you expect them to be as the GDI and not. And you are playing both factions in a 11 mission campaign for both of them, and then of course there are the skirmishes and the multiplayer. Quick note here, I have not played the multiplayer. The reason for that is I just don't care for PvP in those type of games. I love to play the campaign, I love the story, and I love to play some skirmishes, sometimes even with friends against the AI and just having a good time. I'm not seeing this as a competitive journey. So I cannot really tell you too much about the multiplayer itself, but it basically works like the skirmishes, just so you're playing against other players. But I cannot really talk about the balance in multiplayer too much. If you were looking for that, sorry, this is not the video for you. But I can tell you about everything else. So I have been mostly playing through the campaign over Easter, right? And I took basically the holidays to just really get my teeth in, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I really enjoyed the cutscenes you have before every mission. They're basically like two cutscenes playing. The one is the mission briefing, where you can even interact with the NPCs and ask lore questions. I really love the idea how they are doing it. There's always an NPC you can talk to and be like, hey, tell me more about this Tempest thingy, or tell me more about the faction, or what's going on here, right? If you don't want to do that, you can of course just skip that, but it is a possibility, and I really love that everything is voice acted, and the voice acting was also doing a decent job. Nothing to write home about, but again, it's completely fine, and it gives you a little bit of the vibe of Command & Conquer. And then you have a cutscene before you're jumping directly into the mission, which is giving you this build up to the mission, where they are showing you some nice cutscenes, some fights here and there, and give you the feeling of, okay, this is the beginning of the mission, you are jumping in, and then of course you are playing the missions. The missions are quite varied. Like, there's quite a bit of different amount of missions. You have, of course, your usual build a base and crush the enemy kind of deal. Then, of course, you have also missions where you are not like having tons of units, but like specialists and smaller contingency armies, where you are trying to hold certain choke points or take over certain bases, or you have to sabotage something. They're really trying to mix it up when it comes to the different factions and their different missions. And then, of course, we have the two factions themselves, which do play quite differently. Yes, there are some units which are similar in playstyle, but they really try to go the path of, no, the two factions are distinct, every unit can do something differently and has a different usage. What I also love about, speaking about the lore and the campaign, is that they are adding a little bit of Warhammer 40k in here. And what I mean with that is that basically none of the factions you are playing as are the good guys. Like, even the Global Defense Force, as I like to call them, are very totalitarian, right? They're basically owning most of the world, and they're making the decisions, and if you are not aligning with all of that, then they make you even disappear, or they have some really questionable experiments. Like there is this one moment where they're talking. It's a side note. It's a side note, right? It's not a big this is not a big spoiler or anything, but it's like, yeah, hey, we have some experiments going on. We apparently try to feed people some really poisonous shit, and they all died. Oh well. Like it's like, whoa, okay. Like you realize very quickly, even the GDF, they're not the good guys. And the world is pretty much screwed, right? You're playing in an alternate history timeline wherein I think it was 1967. It was around the Cuba crisis, where basically nukes were fired, right? Thankfully, it didn't become Fallout, right? It's not like that humanity and the whole world was nearly obliterated. They shot a few nukes, and then they realized, wait a minute, that's probably not a good idea. We should stop this, right? And they did. And this is how the Tempest Dynasty and the Global Defense Force came to be, especially with the rise of Tempest. So what's Tempest? Well, Tempest is basically Tiberium, right? And they are clearly going the path of Command&Conquer Tiberian Sun. They are trying to show the Tempest more as an organic living thing, which is also scrambling vehicles. Like people can walk into the Tempest, they will not be hurt, but vehicles, not a good idea. So you're trying to stay away from that. And again, I really enjoy the mission. I really enjoy the Command&Conquer feeling they're giving you. And this is like the best substitute Command&Conquer game I've ever played. And I love every minute of it. And I can highly recommend it. As if you loved Command&Conquer, this is probably the closest you will ever get to another Command&Conquer game. Now, before we are talking about the RTS part, there is one part I want to talk about it, and I will say this is a huge spoiler. Please, if you do not want to know about this, if you haven't heard about this or anything, please click on the timestamp down below in the video description, and it will move you forward to the part where I'm not talking about the spoiler anymore. This is a big one. It's an important one, and normally I do not do spoilers, but this is also very important to the gameplay, so I want to mention it. But if you really want to go in blind, please click on the timestamp now. You have been warned. So let's talk about the spoiler. There is a third faction in the game. They are the Veti, and you will meet the Veti in the campaign, and they're not playable right now. They made it pretty clear, though, that the Veti will come in a later update, probably for free, I assume, or DLC, who knows. And there will be a third faction with their own units, their own playstyle, and they're basically aliens precursor race thingy. I have not fully figured out the story of the Veti yet. Like, I'm puzzling it together by playing the two factions, right? And they are still a little bit of a mystery, and that's exactly what they want to do with the lore. But there is a third faction. The third faction will be playable later down after the release, and so this might be very important for your buying decisions. And they remind me a bit of like this, what was it, the Skrin in Command&Conquer, the alien race. Like, they definitely remind me of that a bit, and I'm kind of curious to see how they will play. Now, this ends the spoiler section, and I will not talk about it ever again in this video. So let's talk about the RTS part. How does it feel? Very different. I think that both factions are really good. Like, you're starting out, of course, with your usual main building, then you are building your power building, then you build your factories, which will start to accumulate money for you, and then you will build all the buildings like the barracks and where you can build tanks and all that. Like you're starting to build up your defenses. Now, how good the defenses really are is debatable. I think a lot of people will not necessarily use them. Like the GDF have like a minigun turret, which is really effective against infantry. The problem is it needs to spin up, and the spin up is a bit long. Like I know this is a balance problem, but the same goes with the other defenses. It's basically there to buy you time when your army is out and the enemy is also attacking you and you have basically missed them. But I would say both of the factions have a very broad arsenal with some really, really crazy units. The GDF is definitely focusing a little bit more on the heavy side of things, while the Tempest Dynasty, I would say, is focusing more on some of the support units. Like they literally have a mobile repair range, right? They have a mobile vehicle which you can take with you, and then is repairing your vehicles on the field, while the GDF has a medic, a riot medic, which is pretty strong, very well armored if they are having like their front shield, and they can also heal your units. The Dynasty doesn't have that. So they all have their little special units here and there, and even like their standard units try to be different. Let me just give you a super quick example here. The Dynasty has a rocket launcher guy, an RPG guy, and it does exactly what you expect. Dude with a rocket launcher shooting at the target, shoots a rocket, explodes, does damage. Good, right? While the GDF doesn't have that. They have grenade throwers, which are not really that effective against vehicles, but they have also drone commanders. And the really interesting thing about them is that the drone commander themselves just have a pistol and they're really weak, but they can spawn a drone which is equipped with a rocket launcher. And you can then send out the drone and go to areas the RPG user could probably not reach. And you might think, oh, wait a minute. So that makes the RPG guy weaker, right? No, because the drone can be shot down easily. You can attack the commander, and they cannot really defend themselves too much. Like as I said, they have literally a pistol, which does barely any damage at all. And so, like, there are advantages and disadvantages, and they try to do that with every single unit. What I also like is that there are active abilities you can unlock over time, and also some passives which you can unlock over time to make your units better, which is also a nice thing to have. But I will say this, most of the missions and even the skirmishes are pretty quick. They are pretty quick. I would say it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to finish a mission slash finish a skirmish. You can, of course, drag it out if you so desire. There are enough resources on the map. There are enough buildings you can conquer on the map, which will then give you in return more money or give you some other benefits. So there is enough to do on the map. And the maps are also quite big, but you figure out very quickly where the enemies are. And then you are just sending units in, and after 20 to 30 minutes, it's over. At least if you are playing 1 versus 1 or even 2 versus 2. If you are going for bigger maps and for bigger player numbers, of course, they will add to the play time, and chances are that you will also go into the later tiers of units you can build and utilize. So it really depends on that. But in a 1-on-1, a game takes about 15 to 20 minutes. It's pretty quick. Rush is very effective, and at least against the AI. The AI definitely has some issues with a rush strategy, but I would say the AI is utilizing the different paths to the base. They are looking for weak spots. They are trying to utilize as many units as possible. Of course, they cannot keep up with a human, and again, don't necessarily have to, because you can play PvP, but they do their job well, and well enough that if you just want to play an RTS game where you don't have to go 100% all the time, then Tempest Rising and Skirmish is definitely a good choice. So all in all, I'm really happy about this game. No, seriously, I enjoyed the campaigns. I enjoyed the Skirmish. It's as Command&Conquer being basically my first PC game back in the early 90s. It just makes me so happy to have a Command&Conquer again, because we have been, as a Command&Conquer community, have been disappointed by EA over and over again. Like, we haven't gotten a good Command&Conquer in over a decade, and I don't think we will see another Command&Conquer in over a decade. So let's enjoy what we have here, because it's good. And even as an RTS game, it does what it is supposed to do. So I even recommend it as that. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review, please don't forget to like. If you're also new to the channel, I would appreciate if you subscribe. Please don't forget the Tempest Rising. Oh, wow, my brain. Is available to everyone right now. They had apparently a little bit of a technical screw up with the early access phase and whatnot. Became available to everyone on Saturday, so that was a pleasant, or well, unpleasant surprise, depending on if you bought the deluxe edition, which they will, by the way, do something about. Like, apparently they're working on some exclusive content now for those people. We'll see what that is. But yeah, that was a big screw up. So a bit unfortunate that they definitely had some angry people at some point who all bought the deluxe edition for more money. But that is a different topic. With that said, have a good one. Stay safe.